And welcome to Wednesday night. Yes, it's true that we are coming up on a break, but we're not breaking yet. We got a great show lined up for you tonight. And hey, I'm excited to introduce my co-host Vicky Joy. Vicky Joy, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. It's kind of a bittersweet evening here.
Yeah, it is because we're all wore out and but we love doing these shows and we love connecting and reading the chat and
Yep.
reading the comments and making people mad and making people happy and all the things that
Confusing
we do
people.
with this show. Hey, yeah, welcome lovers and haters and all of that stuff. This is throughtheblack.com's the website. I just want to mention real quick, yes, there's a conference happening in on March 31st through April 1st. It's going to be an amazing weekend. And don't forget, we're planning something that Thursday night. So you might want to come a day early if you're close. We're going to
Mhm.
have a little get together and probably a premiere of a film or something like that. I can't say too much about it, but we're working on something and it's in rough shape right now. So if you want to say a prayer for me, I covet those prayers. I need prayers because I'm working on something that's very difficult right now, and I need a breakthrough or two. But anyway, Out of the Darkness conference coming up, and it's going to be amazing. Greg Reed's going to be there. Sherry Clausen, Vicky Joy, Colleen James, Pastor Sean Carter is going to be there. Of course, you know him from Supernatural Saturdays. Did I say Colleen James? Coach Dave Daubenmeyer, Pastor Mike Spalding, myself. My name's Tom. It's going to be a good conference. Don't forget, throughtheblack.com is where you find our Ezekiel 8 apparel. I'm actually wearing a shirt tonight that says, "I will fight for you." And this is what we find from our family, our friends, our listeners. This is the attitude they have. They are fighting for the man that's down. Okay. Um, anyway, Vic, this is going to be a really cool show tonight. We have a very special guest, and people are going to be like, "Who is it? Who is it? Is L.A. Marzulli coming back? Who do you got? Who do you got? Is it Greg Reed?" Well, no, it's actually somebody that you never heard of, but somebody whose life has been transformed in a very powerful way. Now we're going to hear their testimony tonight. Uh, Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a dark subject matter, and the some of the testimony is going to involve just sharing about this person's lifestyle when they were lost in the world. Okay. And the cool thing is, they're going to talk about how God got a hold of their heart and who God used to get a hold of their heart, somebody that you know. So let me share with you a little bit of the subject matter tonight, and then we're going to bring on our guest tonight. Okay. Do you know what BDSM stands for? Okay. BDSM stands for bondage, discipline, dominance, and submission. Okay. Sadomasochism. All right. So this has kind of been in the news lately because we talked about the photo shoot that has been gaining popularity of the bear that was wearing the leather and the chains that a child was holding. Obviously, very inappropriate for Balenciaga, this fashion company. So anyway, the person tonight that we're gonna be hearing from has spent some time in this lifestyle, and they're going to expose it tonight. So I'm going to ask you, okay, just keep in mind, not all this content is going to be for everybody. And if any of this stuff offends you or anything, you might want to tune out. We're giving you a warning now, okay? But I'm also going to say, hey, I want you to pray for our guest tonight, whose name is Michelle. She's coming on right now, and she's going to share her testimony. And she's a little bit nervous. This is the first time she's ever done anything like this. So say a prayer for her as she comes on. Very bold of her, very brave. of her to share this testimony. Hey, Michelle, how are you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Hey, you know what? We're doing good. This is Vicky Joy and I's last show live. Okay, we have a pre-recorded show that's gonna pop up on Friday night, but this is our last live show for a couple weeks, and we're gonna be coming back. But I think it worked out great because you and I had a little bit of a conversation through social media, and you reached out to me, shared with me a little bit of your testimony, and we kind of connected, and I kind of challenged you, said, hey, why don't you come on the show and share this, because I think it's going to be meaningful to some people. And you stepped up, you prayed about it, and you stepped up to the challenge, so here you are. So Vicky Joy and I, like I said, we're going to take good care of you tonight, and we just want to hear about about this exposure that you're going to do, and we think it's going to mean a lot to many people. So Michelle, I kind of want to start off hearing about what was your childhood like. Can you share with me what it was like growing up in your home?
I grew up in the South. You can tell from my accent. Let's see. I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up in a Pentecostal holiness church, and I never felt like I quite fit in. Like they had so many rules and regulations on how you dress and the things you do. Um, but that's where my beginning with Christ came. Um, I gave my life to God, and I lived for him up until about the age of 18. I got married when I was 16. I graduated high school at 16, started work. My dad signed for me to get married. The marriage was very unequally yoked. My husband at the time was not living for Christ. So there was a conflict within the home from the beginning, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the church that I went to, they were very supportive. The preacher and his wife counseled me, and they told me that a sanctified woman could lead her husband to Christ. So I did all that I thought I could do. I prayed, I fasted, I witnessed, I did everything I could, and things got worse. And finally, the marriage ended. And because the marriage ended, and because I put so much faith in people and not in Christ, I didn't seek out the answers myself like I should have done. I got mad at God. So around the age of 18, I got mad at him. I blamed him, and that's what took the turn for the worse for me
So
until about 4 years ago.
So, Michelle, everything that you're saying right now, so many people can identify with. And I definitely have moments in my life where I blame God for something that was not his fault, right?
Right.
So, wow. And that's a young age to get married. Um, so you were just you went into the married life. You had to grow up quick, is what I'm saying. And then you said you went to work right away.
Absolutely. I was working in a hospital.
Wow.
Wow.
Hmm.
So no kidding. So at about 18, so already when a lot of people's lives should be starting, they're making decisions, maybe, graduating school, they're thinking about going to college, they're thinking about, what's the future going to be. You've already been married and divorced and now mad at God. What happens next?
I got very self-destructive. Everything God wasn't was what I wanted. And um, it was a few years down the road that social media was starting to kick in. It started to become popular. And I joined a talk group, and I know looking back now that what I was searching for was God, but I was trying to find something to fill that empty spot inside of me. And I met someone online and we started talking, and he was very well spoken. He was very take charge, and he knew what to say. And he's the one that introduced me to the lifestyle. And BDSM, the people that are in it, they call it the lifestyle. Um, Come to find out, he was a high ranking official in the Navy that had retired. And he, at the time that I met him, he was working for the NSA.
So, wow.
Wow.
I just want to pause here real quick because the information that you're giving, I think the listeners of this show, they can identify with, because we see um, people that have some kind of proclivity to sexual deviance, maybe ascend to political places and
Absolutely.
leadership, and even in military. So this is the guy, this is the person that kind of introduced you to this lifestyle. And again, we mentioned it in the beginning, BDSM. Can you kind of explain? And you're sharing some of the terminology that's used, within, that lifestyle. They call it the lifestyle. Why do they call it the lifestyle? And remind people what BDSM stands for again.
BDSM stands for bondage, dominance, sadomasochism, and masochism. Um, it is extremely brutal to your mind, to your body, to your spirit. Um, they call it the lifestyle to basically, it's like putting glitter on, excuse my French, but it's like putting glitter on poop, you know? It's just something to make it look and sound better than what it really is. Um, I can only give you my story from my account, and my account comes from people who were in power.
So that was going to be my next question, Michelle, was because this person was high ranking in the military, were there other people that were what we would call elites or powerful people that were involved in this?
There were my memories, because of what I went through. A lot of my memories are gone. Um, but I remember one time, this was after I was trained. I had been trained for about a year, and it was like my going out kind of reward. And we went to what they call a collaring ceremony, which is basically like what we would call a marriage. It was a dedication of a slave to her master. Um, there, it was in a very rich neighborhood in Baltimore. It was guards at the door. Uh, I don't remember the names of the people that were there, but I do know that some were judges and government officials. And because of what I was trained to do, they took a great interest in me. Um, but if I can go back,
Yeah.
the man that introduced me to this, he never put his hand on me for the first 6 months. Everything that he did for the first 6 months was mental. Yes, I made the decision to open that door and walk through it. But by the time the 6 months was over, I was not who I was. They took my humanity from me. I lost my name. I was referred to as girl. Um, but at the same time, they have a way of wording things. They have a way of talking to you that everything wrong is right. It's like what the Bible talks about.
Mhm.
What's wrong is right, what's right is wrong.
Mhm.
Um
Michelle, I
and
just want to say real quick, I appreciate you taking responsibility for your sin, but there's no question that you were manipulated, and you understand
Yeah,
that.
groomed.
I do, but I want to make sure that I take as much responsibility as I'm supposed to, because I need people to understand that there are a lot of hurting people out here in this world that get taken and abused and victimized, and it's not their choice. But
Mhm.
it was my choice. It was my choice to walk through that door. And there are people out here that have made those choices, and they have went into the depths of darkness, and they don't believe that God can see them, that God could actually reach out to them. But there's no depth that He cannot go. No
Amen.
depth.
Amen. Man, I'm kind of feeling like Beaver Cleaver here. Like I thought, obviously I've heard of this before, but the way it's glamorized, on television is that, it's just a bunch of kinky people who love this and it's all consensual and everybody loves it. And so this is like, Tom, this sounds so similar to the stuff that we investigate with SRA. Like I had no idea that this was kind of like a grooming process and that maybe it's not as consensual on every level as they make it sound to be.
No, and I'm blown away so far by the things that you're revealing, Michelle. I just want to say to the listeners, a lot of people don't know, maybe from the thumbnail, about what the show and the name of the show, what it's going to be about tonight. So, guys, thank you for sharing this stuff, and thank you for subscribing to the channel. All of that, okay? We appreciate it, and when you guys share it, it helps us get the word out and get Michelle's testimony out. So, Michelle, is there anything else you can share about this time of training? Okay, they were preparing you for this ceremony. What and you said the first 6 months was mental. I believe every word you're saying. I can hear the sincerity and the pain in your voice from these memories. What was that like? Um, just this mental abuse, and what happened during that training time while they were preparing you?
Um, the first part was, of course, him learning about me opening up to him and telling him my thoughts, my feelings, my dreams, all of these things. And then after he spent so much time, just making me feel like I was worth something at a time when I felt like God didn't even love me, you
Mm.
know? And he made me feel important. He made me feel special. And then it's like it took a turn, but not so quick and hard of a turn that it would cause me to worry. And it started out with deep conversations about how I looked at the world, what I thought about God. Um, they don't want you to have a God. They are your God. That's why you call them master. They are your everything.
Mm.
Um, let's see. Then I have a memory where, and I still don't understand this. He sent me every song from the band Rush. Um, he had the printouts and all that, and we went through each song and what he thought it meant, or what it meant to him, and everything that he talked about was logical to my mind by then. Um, he was he was literally changing the way that I looked at the world.
Mm. So,
Wow.
Michelle, at risk of this being like a simple-minded question, was this just something specific to his grooming process, or is there something about the band Rush that's part of the curriculum, so to speak?
I honestly believe it was just him. It was his thing. It was what he could relate to.
Gotcha.
Are there
Um,
any specifics that you
Wow.
remember that kind of stand out as he was talking about Rush, that kind of like, oh, this is interesting?
Yeah.
I honestly, I cannot tell you honestly anything that pops out of my mind right now. Just since you and I have talked back and forth through messages and things, I have memories that are coming back now, throughout this time.
Well, and I think it's obviously normal for these memories to kind of come and go because this was traumatizing for you and almost like a self-defense mechanism, your mind blocks them out to protect you from the pain.
Hmm.
Right.
So, you went through almost just kind of like a time of mind control. Would that be a good way to describe it?
Absolutely. He reprogrammed me. He completely reprogrammed me. And I was programmed to be a person that could accept a great deal of physical and mental pain.
What was there a time during that process where you were figuring out like this may not be the greatest thing, but you didn't turn back?
Absolutely. There were quite a few times. And when he would get the feeling that I was pulling away, then he would, for lack of better words, he would relax. He would give me some time to recuperate. He would make me feel like what he was doing by giving me this time was a gift, you know, and that in order for me to succeed in the lifestyle, because remember, I didn't even think God wanted me anymore. Um, but for me to have value in the lifestyle, I needed to have this ability to take the pain, to take the abuse. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Painfully, painfully. So,
Um,
Michelle, is this lifestyle something that you have the free will to walk away from, or is this some sort of like gang mafia sort of thing where if you walk away, they target you, or it's difficult to leave?
That's so funny because they start you out, the ones that I've had the experience with, start out with presenting you a contract. And it's a contract of all the different kinks and activities. I'm trying to keep it G-rated here. Um, that you would be interested in or you would be totally against. And it was his job to take the limits that I had set and work on me until I had no limits.
Mm,
so Michelle, I
mm,
wanted to ask, do you think that his background in the military was implemented in what he used on you?
Absolutely, no doubt.
wow,
There's not a doubt in my mind.
wow.
None at all, because I seen not only did the way he dealt with me, but I saw how he interacted with other people that were of high level authority, and other people that were people like just me, you know. And he had an air about him that just drew people to him.
Mm,
So, I understand there's a profile that that the military looks for when they're looking for a specific person, like for example, like a sniper, okay,
Right.
or somebody that they want to put in an elite position. The example of the profile is a weak mother and or a strong mother and no father. Okay, now you found yourself like in some place on social media, and probably they might have seen you coming, quite a ways away and said, okay, this girl is a target because you were vulnerable. Okay.
Absolutely.
And you were in a place where vulnerable people go. So they use their skills to basically, to find these things out. And when they found that out, you know, they basically recruited you in a way into this program. So, how long was the training process?
The training lasted about a year, and as I got passed around to different dominants and masters, then each one had their own style of servitude. And because I was groomed already to take pain, that was my thing. They had like sex slaves. They had pain slaves. They had doormats. They had furniture, human toilets. There all kinds of things. And mine just happened to be the pain aspect.
So, Michelle, can we go back to, you were talking about there was a ceremony where you were kind of it was like did you say it was like a marriage or something?
It's a collaring
A
ceremony.
collaring ceremony. So can you
Mhm.
kind of share what that was all about?
It was a couple of his friends, and the dominant was actually one of his mentors. And he had a slave that he had had for quite a few years, and he was wanting to make a gesture of committing to her. So he allowed her to plan a collaring ceremony, which is basically the same thing as a marriage, just not legal. Um, it was black tie. It was absolutely beautiful. All the stops had been pulled out, and instead of a ring, it was a collar that was locked permanently around her neck.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
I've got so many questions, Michelle, and it seems as though that these people that are into this are operating, um, hidden in plain sight. Um,
Absolutely.
what
Oh, yes.
what do they look like in the daytime? Because for people that understand what BDSM means, we understand the costumes and the chains and the leather. We know, we get an idea of what that looks like. Um, but what do these people look like in the light of day?
Mm.
They're everyday power playing people. The ones that I've had experience with, one was a president at a children's hospital in Tennessee. Um,
Mm.
one was he was high ranking in law enforcement. These are people that um, are very educated, well educated, and they have connections. And Miss Vicky, when you were talking about how this lifestyle is so close to the satanic, that's actually what caused me to reach out to you guys, because the more and the closer I got to God and the more he was showing me, they are parallel. They really are.
Yeah.
They break you down, and they control every aspect of you until you lose who you are.
Mm.
And I'm sorry, but the thing about my training was the pain, and the way that they taught me how to accept the pain was they called it subspace. And he taught me that subspace is a place you can go in your mind where you can literally leave your body so that you don't feel the pain, and you can go to this safe place. And
Mhm.
just here recently, it caused me to wonder if that was a type of fragmenting. I'm not sure. I'm not.
Well, what you just described
Sure
was
sounds like it.
disassociation, no
Disassociation.
doubt about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
Folks, anybody that's been watching our show for the last couple months knows that Vicky Joy and I have been talking very purposely about dark things. And we've been saying this is a safe place to learn about dark things. And we're not doing this for any kind of exploitive reason. We're not trying to give any glory to the dark side, but we're doing it to expose it. That's exactly what Michelle is doing here tonight.
Mm.
And I just commend her boldness and bravery for saying this. She's probably exposing things that have never been exposed
Mm.
in this way before. And the show that you're listening to is groundbreaking in so many ways. Um, Michelle, how far? Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about this collaring ceremony. Where did
Mhm.
these people come from? Were they local or did they come from all over? It sounds like they were pretty elite, rich people.
They were the ones that I was allowed to meet were government officials from Washington. So I imagine they were pretty local since this is Baltimore that this was
Hmm.
happening at. Um, of course, I wasn't allowed to speak unless someone showed me extreme interest, and then I had to get permission to speak. I do know that there was a judge that took a lot of interest in me at that time, but they would what I would definitely call them high class, a lot of rich people. And
Mhm.
and please understand, it really infuriated me when the movie 50 Shades of Grey came out because they sensationalized it. It's not like that. The majority of a submissive or a slave's life is being beneath a human.
Mhm.
You are less than a human. And the only way you can be human is if your master or your dominant acknowledges you. Like you, I was taught that every bit of my joy was his. My will was his. If he wanted me to be happy, I was happy. If he wanted to be me to be scared, I was scared. And everything revolved around him and what he wanted. It's not like 50 Shades of Grey. There is so much more to this than the sex. So much more. And the
So
people
yeah,
that truly live this way, the real ones, it's very mental. Very.
Mhm.
and that book and movie, they tried to romanticize that lifestyle, but you are just completely shattering that myth tonight.
Mhm.
Um, Michelle, I think Vicky Joy and I are kind of like we're the same. We feel the same way. We understood that this is a thing that goes on, and this is, a type of lifestyle, or there are people that have this kind of specific perversion. But what you're exposing tonight again is groundbreaking. So you were at this collaring ceremony. Did anything specific happen to you tonight? Did or that night, or did you, or was that for the other person?
That was for the other person. That was a specific event for that couple, and that was the dominant's gift to the submissive or to the slave was this ceremony. It was all about her that night.
Mhm.
So what happens next in your life after that ceremony?
Um, After that, I went into more intense training because I guess my master at the time seen things that he wanted to change about me, because there were other submissives there were other dominants, there were other slaves, there were other masters. And um, so I went into another different level of training. And like the movie 50 Shades romanticizes it, it doesn't show the time where your jaw is dislocated. And instead of being sent to a hospital to get proper medical attention, they put it back for you and give you some Advil and a beer.
Mhm.
Um, they don't, they didn't show where you are beat so hard that your whole backside of your body is black, where you have permanent kidney damage. They don't show where needles are inserted throughout your body while you are tied up, blindfolded, and cannot hear. You don't know who's around. You don't know what's going on, but they want you to go into this subspace where you can take even more pain. They don't show that. That's the real lifestyle.
Mhm. Michelle, do you think these people, I mean, when I hear things like that, I think a person has to be drunk, high, or possessed to be able to get any sort of pleasure from that when someone else is being in pain inflicted. Do you think there's a demonic element to this?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. If I don't, and this is my opinion, but I do not see how anyone who claims to be a Christian and loves Christ could live this way. How can why would you want to inflict so much pain and so much torment to somebody that God created? He created each and every person. Why would you want to destroy what God created? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So are there masters in this lifestyle that do profess to be believers, or like you said earlier, is this kind of like its own religion?
It's pretty much its own religion. I
Mm.
believe most of them would either claim to be atheist or hedonist.
Mm. Sure.
They don't want you to have anything to do with God at all.
Mm.
Well, that definitely checks a box that we knew about. I remember, I think it was sometime this year, they had like some kind of a guy they brought on that was supposed to oversee the monkeypox thing, and this was a political figure, and he was uh, involved in this lifestyle, or there were photographs that leaked or something like that. And I mean, this is an example backing up, this testimony that Michelle is giving right now. Michelle, how long did you live in this lifestyle?
I lived it for roughly around 10 years.
Whoa.
10 years.
Whoa.
And what was your life like then? You kind of mentioned, getting used, or I mean, they treated you like a piece of property.
Correct. I was a piece of property. I was programmed that there was nothing special about me, that I was the same thing as a show truck to them. It would be like having a pet dog. That's what I was. And I was used by him, and then um, he would loan me out.
So,
Mm.
um, I'm trying to think of the question that I want to ask here, or figure out how to word it. But I guess I want to know, how did you? I mean, where did you live? How did you eat? What was?
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Um, I would live sometime, part of the time, in my home, and then I would travel to live with him part of the time. And as far as eating and day-to-day things go, I was trained that I would sit under the table at his feet while he ate. Um, there was one dominant that used me that I had to eat outside in dog dishes in the garage with the dogs. It was different for each dominant or each master.
So, Michelle, how did that? Um, I feel wrong saying this, but I think it's accurate. How did that transaction take place where you were loaned out to somebody else? Was there a conversation? I mean, how did that happen?
I was usually never notified ahead of time. Um, Normally the person would just come over and they would talk with my master and he would tell me to leave with them and I would go.
Mm.
There was one time that really sticks out in my memory, um, that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt. God had me this whole time, but I know this one instant God really had me. This was with a dominant that he was high ranking law enforcement. And I received a phone call from him and he gave me an address to go to. And he told me no limits. Okay. So I show up and I was told that it would be a man and his wife. When I get there, the wife is nowhere around. It's just me and him. And I have a few memories of that time. Um, I remember going in. I remember sitting on the couch. I remember him telling me to go to the basement. And there was something, this was the first time this has ever happened to me. It was the first time that it was like everything inside me was screaming, don't go, say no. And that's one thing that was programmed out of me, was saying no. And, but it had to be God. And I told him no. And then the next thing I remember, he's got me by the hair. He's dragging me through the house. He drags me out into the garage. He beats me up. And then the next thing I remember, I'm on the phone in my car trying to drive. And I called my best friend and I was like, you just got to talk to me. Just talk to me till I can get out of here.
Mhm.
And I firmly believe God had me that night. I firmly believe that.
Michelle, we can look back and see the hand of God in our life, and how he protected us and how he rescued us, even when we were in the midst of danger. He was
Absolutely.
there. And again, I can speak for those listening tonight, that they're blown away by the things that you are sharing, the trauma that you experienced, and they're blown away by your courage to share this testimony. Um, you said that you traveled, like, where were the places you traveled in the United States, around the world? Where, I mean, and what kind of, how was the travel? Did you travel commercial or private jet or?
Um, the majority of the traveling that I did was along the East Coast, and I was provided a car for me to drive myself. Um, I did not fly or anything like that. Um, Nobody ever knew when I was leaving my home or when I was to come back. And most of the time, I didn't know where I was going. I would be given an address and I go.
Mhm. Michelle, how large of a network is this? I mean, how many people are immersed in this lifestyle?
It's huge. And the more society tries to normalize it, the more they really work towards making this acceptable, the bigger the population grows. There
Mm,
are conventions that go on. The Black Rose is one. There was a support group that I was made to become a member of, and it was a support group for nothing but submissive women. No dominants were allowed. But I later found out that the woman that was over the group was a friend of his, and he basically just had me in the group to socialize, but to make sure that I stayed my place.
mhm, mhm,
Michelle, I was going to ask, when you were in these dominance homes, when you were maybe you were at a party or whatever, were there any, did you see anybody that saw you and they were like, what's going on with this girl? Why is this girl being treated like this?
No, no. The parties were specifically invitation only. The parties had guards at the doors and the exits, the entrance and the exits, and everyone that was there for that. There were times when there were parties where certain submissives or slaves were put on display so that the dominant or master could basically show off his property. Um, there were times when other dominants were allowed to torture or have sex with the submissives or slaves that were put on display. Um, I was used once again for the pain. they could try their hand out and see just how much I could take.
And so it sounds like it was very guarded and very protected.
Very
So,
much.
um, you know, a lot of people struggle when they hear about satanic rituals, and they're like, how is it that nobody hears about this, or nobody, catches these guys? But the way that you're describing these parties and these ceremonies and the way that they're guarded, you are also at the same time exposing, you know, um, the way they guard satanic rituals. And it's the same type of people that are involved in this. So for the people that are listening tonight, they might want to say, well, these guys are Satanists. Well, I would say they're very satanic. And I'll ask Michelle about this herself. If she saw anybody involved in that. But I think it's also possible that there's different cliques. Okay. And it makes sense that there were so many people from law enforcement, military, that are involved in this lifestyle. So, Michelle, did you see anybody involved in any kind of satanic worship or ceremonies or rituals?
I was only allowed to see certain things when we were at parties. Um, I do know myself that there were times during parties that I was tied up, I was blindfolded, I could not hear, I was hooded actually. And so complete sensory deprivation and the things that were done to me, I can't say it wasn't satanic, but I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Michelle, did you disassociate, or did you learn how to kind of control this subspace, as he called it, or were you kind of 100% in those moments?
Um, I learned how to flip a switch, I guess. Like, if whatever way he wanted me to act, he made sure that he trained me to act that way. And he would, most of the time, he would let me know, okay, well, I'm taking you out tonight, so I need you to be on your best behavior. Okay, well, that let me know I need to act like a respectable person of society, and if anyone engages me in conversation, I should be able to have an intelligent conversation with them. Um, if he had private company coming over, he would say, okay, well, I'm having company, and that let me know that, okay, well, when they come over, I sit at his feet, I keep my head bowed, I'm on my knees, and I keep my palms facing up. I stay in the submissive pose until he tells me to do anything different. Um, when
Wow.
it come time for pain, he would let me know, okay, well, we're going to have a pain session. And I knew then to go ahead and start accepting the pain before it even started coming. Does that make sense?
It,
Sadly,
it
yeah.
does. And for many people listening tonight, this is really just horrifying what you've been through. Um, Michelle, so you're told that company is coming over, and you know the role that you have to play that night. What kind of people are coming over where you are in their view and they can see it's other people in the lifestyle? It must be.
I believe it was. It was colleagues. It was people that he worked with. It was friends. But it was very guarded. It was like there were only a few friends outside of the lifestyle that he actually allowed in the home while I was there. Now, what he did while I wasn't there, I have no idea.
Right.
None. But
So
while I was there, it was very few.
did
Mhm.
you ever get like a surprise reaction from anybody about the way that you were being treated or the way that you were behaving?
Not that I can remember. These people were really good at just absorbing what they saw and just letting it happen.
Mm.
So again, Michelle, there's so many things I want to ask you, and we're gonna get here in a minute to the good part of the testimony about how you got set free. And I want to give you a chance because I know that you said that this is complex, and I want to make sure that we get to everything that you want to share. And you made it pretty clear to us that you want to see people set free. You want people to hear your story. What I want to ask is, and you may not even be familiar with this. So a few years ago, there was I want to be careful what I say, but there were a couple of things that were exposed. One was connected to a certain restaurant in D.C., um, and where they played ping pong and ate, Italian food, and there were some weird pictures that came out of there, and then there was a politician, okay, that had weird art in his home. Do you know what I'm talking about? Without
Honestly, I don't.
Okay, well, anyway, I'll just say this: there were some politicians that were exposed to being connected to some weird stuff, and you're probably familiar with somebody like Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the question is this: is were you surprised, like when you hear some of this stuff, like here's this super rich guy, Jeffrey Epstein, and the things that he was doing to women? That probably made a lot of sense to you, right?
Very much so. Yes.
Hmm. Michelle, I hate to ask this, but you were like around 18 when this happened. Are
Yes,
are
ma'am.
they grooming girls younger than that?
Absolutely. And looking back now, I see where I was a prime target. I was young. I was naive. I was not highly educated. I was coming from a very hurt place. And someone that had clout, someone showed interest in me and really acted like they cared to get to know who I am.
Yeah.
Um, I was a prime target. And yes, these people want your children. They, oh my goodness, they so want your children. The last, Lord have mercy. The last master that I had was the president of the Children's Hospital in Tennessee. And what he wanted, his dream was to have a slave that could have children. God forgive me. But he wanted the woman to have children, the children to get to it like 8, 6, 7, 8, and then her have sex with her children. That was his that was his dream. These people are so perverted and they want your children. They want it all. And there are no good intentions at all. Not these people. There are people that play at this lifestyle. You see videos all the time in social media. Well, these are swingers and these practice BDSM. Those people are not the real ones. I promise you. I
Mhm.
promise you.
I believe you, Michelle. My mind is blown. Tom, I thought I'd heard it all, and
Um,
man,
so Michelle, a lot of the grooming that you described is very similar to the way a pimp will break a prostitute, okay, and
Okay.
break her down. It's the same mind control that we see in so many different areas, obviously used in ritual abuse and Satanism. And it makes sense that these type of people, and we're not painting with a broad brush here, okay, but it makes sense that these type of people that are involved in these careers are involved in this lifestyle that you've shared here tonight. um Michelle, has um I guess, maybe share in your own words if this has done any damage as far as your ability to trust military and law enforcement.
It has. It's not just military and law enforcement. It has caused me to be weary of people, period. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't mean any offense when I say this, but even when I reached out to you, I did a lot of digging. I did a lot of searching you out, searching through the blackout, and I did a lot of praying because when you go through that, it's like, and you come out, you don't really trust yourself and your
Mhm.
judgment for a while, you know?
Mhm.
But it does. If I see a cop behind me, oh my goodness, especially that type of law enforcement, um, he's actually the one I'm most afraid of.
Mhm.
Um, if I were to see that type of vehicle get behind me, I would break out in a sweat
Mhm. Mhm.
because I am afraid.
Well, Michelle, you're checking us out. That's not unfounded paranoia. That is discernment. And unfortunately, there are a lot of deliverance ministries out there that shouldn't be trusted. So I'm just glad that in the end you decided to talk to us, because I mean, you've just blown my mind wide open. There's a whole group of women out there that we need to be praying for and seeking out and ministering to.
And if I may, it's not just women. There
Mm,
are male submissives, male slaves, and they
mm,
need it too. All of them need it, but
yeah.
there are a lot of people that are in this lifestyle that are submissives and slaves, and they truly, in their heart and in their mind, they don't believe they can get out.
Mm,
But you can.
mm,
You can. With God's help, you can get out of it and you can heal from it. And I think a lot of the reasons why people are too afraid to come out is because they think, well, once I get out, then what? What do I do? Who do I become? I don't know anything else.
mm,
But God
mm.
can fix all of that. He can fix it all.
Amen. Amen. Um, Michelle, I want to give you a chance just to kind of share anything else about this time in your life, because we want to move to the testimony part of how God got a hold of you and rescued you out of this, and how He used somebody that all the listeners are very familiar with. But is there anything else about the lifestyle that you want people to know about, or you want to share?
Um, I did want to add that when I was being groomed, it wasn't um just talks and things. Like, I was taken to nice places. I was taken on very special trips. I was shown a lot of things that I had never seen before. Um, and of course, with that sensationalism, your guard gets kind of broke down piece by piece. And looking back now, I can see all the mistakes I made. Um, but please, the only thing that I really want to get across is these people are not stopping. They have no intentions to stop, none. And they will come after your children. They will come after your teenager. They will come after the hurt, the lost, and they will devour them unless we do something. Unless the body of Christ does something.
Mm.
Every one of them are God's creation, and every one of them deserves love, and every one of them needs to understand just how precious they are. I'm sorry, I'll be quiet.
No,
No, no,
no. You're
don't.
telling the truth,
Yeah,
Michelle, and you are doing something tonight.
yeah.
So yeah. I had a question, but I forgot it. So that's okay. I want to I just want to kind of hear from you. You got involved in this lifestyle. You grew up, in a church that was very charismatic, and there was kind of a thing there that there was a struggle, but that's where you found the Lord. And then the enemy um just tricked you like he tricks anybody, and you got involved in this lifestyle. Michelle, you've been very open about your your decision and your accountability to it. And I think that's very admirable, even though you were manipulated. Uh, was there anything else besides, because when in your younger years, you were serving God, but you got into the BDSM lifestyle. What else did you get into?
Um, After the BDSM lifestyle, I got into Wicca, I got into witchcraft, I got into tarot, I got into astral projection, um, a little bit of everything dark that I could, without turning to Satanism itself. But I did. I went as dark as I thought I could possibly go.
And did you pursue that on your own, or did somebody open that up to you?
Um, Pretty much, I pursued it on my own. Although there was a lady in a town nearby that was considered a white witch, and she had a shop, and she had all these beautiful crystals, and all these trinkets and things. And we got to talking, and she started um, informing me and started teaching me things. And I pretty much took it and ran with it. And I did the majority of it on my own.
I would think that after 10 years of all that dominance, that there would be an appeal to you in magic and witchcraft. That would be a sense of like control, I would think.
Pretty much. And as far as coming out of the lifestyle, I had a really hard time because I was so programmed to accept pain, and that pain was love for me. It was how they showed me how much they cared, that even once I got out of the lifestyle, I self-harmed
Oh,
just so I could feel normal.
oh wow.
And now I have a lot of tattoos to cover up the scars.
Mm.
So,
A lot.
Michelle, I remembered the question I wanted to ask. What was being done to you was hostile, was brutal.
Mhm.
Um, did you ever feel that these people could actually kill a person?
Absolutely.
And can you give
No
it
doubt.
I mean, do you think maybe some of them have?
I believe it's very possible. The the last master that I had, if he had not, it wasn't because he didn't want to. That was actually one of his fantasies.
And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I want you just to kind of share in your own, in your own words. So, and this was the one who was the president of the Children's Hospital.
Correct.
It's interesting because Jimmy Savile from the UK, who was a celebrity, kind of like a DJ in the UK for many, many years, was involved in a children's hospital. And he, on the surface, was seen as this very good guy that gave to charity and he raised money for charity. But behind the scenes, after he died, they found out that he was abusing the children in the hospital that he was supposed to be helping. I don't know if you're familiar with Jimmy Savile or not.
I am not, but I need to. Okay, I just had a flashback. Okay, the one that was the children's hospital president. He was married while I was owned by him. You had asked me if anyone had claimed to be Christian. I don't know if he ever claimed to be Christian, but you were talking about the way he looked in public. Him and his wife would attend church, like for Easter and Christmas, all the major holidays. He would actually be in church. He was a very upstanding person, well regarded in the community. I just wanted to get that out.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Sure.
So,
I'll bet.
Michelle, how did you get out of the lifestyle?
Um, I basically ran from it. Um, the last one, he was the worst as far as sadistic. Um, But he had some major life changes that happened to him and his family. As I stated, he was married. Um, there was a lot going on in his family. And because of that, he had to let me go. And when he started loosening the grip, I ran.
Mhm.
I did. I moved out of state and I didn't look back.
And did his wife know about you?
I don't see, I can't tell you no because I didn't have interaction with her. But
Gotcha.
I don't these people can be so deceiving. I can't say that she did or she didn't because he covered his tracks very well.
And how many years has it been since you made that escape?
From BDSM 4, 5.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So, I mean, wow, Michelle. I mean, I think we're shocked and we're heartbroken for what you went through. We're heartbroken for you, and then we're heartbroken for the ones that have not made it out. I'm
Absolutely.
just I don't know what to say,
Mhm.
but how you ran from the lifestyle, and is that when you got into the witchcraft afterwards?
Yes. I had
Okay,
to have something else to fill that hole,
right.
Yeah.
Um,
and that's
and
what I went into.
during this time, did you ever have a conviction, just like during those years with the BDSM lifestyle and the witchcraft, did you ever have any kind of conviction like, ah man, what about God? Could God save me from this? Was that ever on your mind?
It wasn't, I've my mother's passed away now, but I remember having talks with her and her witnessing to me. And no matter what she said, I still didn't feel like I was worthy enough
Mhm.
for God to even look at me again. I mean, I had done some really bad things. Why
Mhm.
would he look at me? So I continued to run until he got me to a place where I couldn't run anymore. I couldn't.
So when you first reached out to me, Michelle, you told me about how this happened. Can you kind of go into that now? And I mean, it happened watching YouTube. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Go ahead and tell the story.
um, I was scrolling through YouTube and I never watched things that had to do with Christianity. I never watched a lot of religion. And I was scrolling through and I seen this video and this man was talking about satanic ritual abuse. And I was like, let me check it out. Something just wanted me to just click on it. And I started watching it. And as I was watching it, I had never met this man, and my spirit was feeling like I was being called out, like, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to continue watching this man and I'm going to prove him wrong. At the time, I was a witch, and he was talking about how all witches are not good, and I was so determined to prove him wrong. But the more I watched, the more I started feeling God for the first time again. And it
Mhm.
was it was almost like a drug, like I had to absorb everything that this man had ever recorded. And along with that came a lot of understanding, um, and
Mhm.
a lot of healing that God allowed.
So, do you want to share who this person was and just what his training meant to you?
His name was Mr. Russ Disdar. And I started at shatterthedarkness.net, and I clicked on everything I could click on. Like I did. I watched all of the conferences on YouTube. I literally consumed myself with nothing but absorbing what this man had to say. And I'm still to this day going through his training online, and my life has did an about face. And I still remember I was isolated for 2 years. Well, I'm sorry, I take that back. I was isolated for 4 years. I was in a state where I didn't have any support system whatsoever. I had been homeless and had to move back to that state. Um, and I was broken. I was so broken. Um, I was continuing to self harm. And I remember one day I wanted to pray. I, I hadn't felt that in so long. I wanted to pray. But when I tried to pray, I couldn't. I could not pray. And then I was like, I got so mad. And I was like, you know what, devil, I might not be able to pray, but I can write it down. And I
Mm.
started writing. I started writing all the things I was thankful for. I started talking to God in my writings. And for up until this past year, all my communication with God is written down.
Mm.
And I finally had that breakthrough where now I can pray. And I remember the day I firmly believe that there was something demonic, maybe not in me, but attached to me. And I remember waking up that day and I was absorbed in God's word and Russ's work. And I was repenting and I was praying and I was pouring out. And finally, God said, okay, now go take a shower and wash it off. And I went and I took a shower, and the whole time I was praying and rejoicing. Um, there's so much I could say. Um, and I have, I have tried very hard to stay in his will. And now every time I go to make a big decision, I'm like, God, you're going to have to push me because I'm scared of messing up. You just got to push me on out there. Um, but use me. God, please use me. Let me be able to reach people and tell them that there's nothing that they've done that you can't be forgiven for. And that thing that you are searching for is not sex, it's not drugs, it's not self-harm, it's not new age, it's not yoga, it's not any of it. It's God. And if you truly want to know peace, just try. Just try it. You've tried everything else. Try God, because that's a peace that it passed all understanding. And it can be given to every person. Every person. We are all God's creation.
Huh. I the only thing I can just say is praise God.
Yeah.
Um, praise God for His mercy, His love, His compassion on your life, and just for Him to put it on your heart to get connected to us to share tonight. Michelle, what you're sharing is going to reach so many people, and folks, we just encourage you to share it. Um, I want to ask you, Michelle, when you began listening to Russ, what did you maybe learn different that maybe you got wrong when you were younger in your understanding of Christianity when you were younger?
The the way that the churches are now puts so much emphasis on rules for each denomination. It's almost like a club. Each denomination is a club to be in. Um, so much emphasis put on the denomination. So much emphasis is put on to you listening to the preacher and you do what the preacher says. They don't, once you get saved, they don't teach you what to do next. It's like, awesome, you're saved. Go on out in the world. Now what? Please, now what? And I was never taught that I could have that real one-on-one relationship with God like I do now. I thought back then that I was close to God. Honey, if I knew then what I know now, oh my goodness. And God had to isolate me. I At that time when I was younger, I felt like I needed a preacher to tell me what to do. I felt like I needed the elders of the church to pray over me to solve my problems. And God put me in a position, isolated, away from home, away from my loved ones, alone. And he was like, "Oh girl, you about to see now that all you need is me, and I'm going to get you through this." And that's what he did. That is exactly what he did. Is a church body a great thing? Absolutely. We all need fellowship. But let me tell you something. All you truly need is God. He can fix it. And that's what I got wrong back then.
Wow.
Vicky, I want to give you a chance to ask a question.
I'm just overwhelmed on so many levels. Michelle, first of all, I'm just so glad that you came on and you've been so forthright, and I I think you're extremely articulate. Like, you are preaching the gospel in a way that's just tugging at my heart right now. I'm just so glad that you came on, and I hope that there's other Michelles out there who are scrolling through the YouTube and find this. I hope that you're a Russ to other Michelles out there. I think this is one of the most valuable shows we've done so far. My mind is so blown away by what you've exposed here. I had no idea that these people were out there, and I mean, I'm not going to be able to move on from this and not want to pray for those people. And uh, I don't really I mean, I probably have a million questions because this is all so new to me, and it's so fascinating on one level, and I want to learn and I want to know more. But I just really want to end by just saying how grateful I am that you've come on and you've articulated this so well. You've articulated the gospel so well. Your testimony is very, very powerful.
Michelle, I want to ask you, for anybody out there that will listen to this video, okay, that might be in the situation you were in, okay, a few years ago, 5 years ago, what would be your message to any women or men that are in this lifestyle and they feel like there is no hope? Just speak to them as if they're right there in front of you.
If they could hear me, I would ask for them. I would tell them, I wouldn't ask them, I would tell them that they are worth so much more. They are worth so much more. That Christ got on the cross and he allowed himself to be crucified for them. He loves them so much. And the peace, the thing that they're trying to fill that hole is him. That, yeah, it's scary getting out. It is so hard to learn how to rethink everything, how to reprogram your mind to realize that you are human and that you do have value over what, so much more value than just what pleasure you can give someone. They are worth so much more. There's healing on the other side. Just try, leave, get out if you can, and just put your trust in God. And if you will take that first step, he'll take the second, he'll take the third, because whatever you lack, he will fill it up. He will. And my heart breaks for people because I know that they're there because they're hurting, and all they're getting on top of the hurt that they already had is more hurt. So much more hurt. And that is not how God intended us to live. There is peace, there is joy, there is happiness. and it can be obtained. It can be. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't apologize. You know, I'm just thinking right now of the chapter in Scripture, Isaiah chapter 53. If there's anyone out there listening to this and you are in this situation and you feel hopeless, please get on the internet, Google Isaiah 53, read it. It talks about how Jesus was wounded for us. He bore the stripes of being whipped and beaten for us. He was crushed for us. He took our place. He took the beatings and the whips and the thorns and the nails so that we don't have to. He saw enough value in you that he took all of that dominance and submission and pain for you, and he will bear it for you. He's a master that wants to love and protect and nurture and take care of you, not hurt you.
Exactly. Michelle, I cannot thank you enough on behalf of Vicky Joy and myself and the listeners, the thousands that are going to hear this testimony. You are the first to expose this in this way. Folks, don't forget to pray for Michelle and just ask God to surround her with protection in his presence. Michelle, is there anything else that you want to add tonight?
I just want to thank you guys for this opportunity. When I started listening to Russ and when I repented and started my walk back with Christ, I asked him, I said, Lord, please use me. Let my story not be in vain. Let my journey not be in vain. If it can help one person, that is more than enough. I've dealt with the shame. I've dealt with the humiliation. I've dealt with the guilt. I wouldn't trade it for the world now, because I know that there's people out there now that are going through what I went through, and I can help them. And God's going to make the doors open. He just proved it by giving me this opportunity to speak tonight. God's going to give me the opportunity to spread his word and his healing and his love and his grace and his mercy. That's all I want to say.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Folks,
Amen.
again, we appreciate you just supporting the channel and just sharing it, subscribing to it. When you tweet this out, when you share it on social media, it helps us get the word out there. We are finding new people by the dozens almost daily. Okay. This channel is growing now quicker than it ever has. Of course, many of you know we had a channel a couple years ago. It got shut down. We're back and we're growing again, and we are looking for our family and our friends. Okay. Don't forget about the conference coming up. And of course, tomorrow night, Colleen is going to be back. We got a couple more shows this week. But guys, again, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Michelle, thank you so much. We're going to say goodbye to you off the air. We're just blown away by your boldness tonight. So blessings to you, sister. And I believe God is going to do great things with you and your testimony, and he's going to use you in ways that you never thought he could, just to help so many people. And it's already started tonight, folks. One more thing: if you're listening in the archives, even if you listen in the chat and you want to put a comment of encouragement to Michelle, please do it in the comments, okay? And yeah, and if we get any feedback, we'll pass it on to you, Michelle. God bless everybody. We will see you soon. Bye.